Good morning, everyone. Welcome aboard. Happy Sunday to everybody. It's that time of the show where we kick things off and let the notifications go out. And we sit back here and wait for the clock on the wall to quit with the Westminster chimes, and I can kind of relax. If you're watching this on replay, just go ahead and scrub past this graphic. We just do this, as I said, to let all the notifications go out and let folks know that we're live. You might hear my heater running in the background. I'm going to leave it running today because it's a bit chilly yet hasn't quite warmed up. But we'll wait for the clock on the wall to strike 12. Then I'll come along and click the button and say, "Good morning, y'all. How you doing?" It's now officially afternoon, I guess, so I'll stop with the good mornings and say happy Sunday to you. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody is having a good day and got a little bit of shop time in. We've been sitting here in the chat talking about old computers, old internet access, stuff like that. And oh man, it's just a lot of fun out here. So, there was no video this morning. Again, I've gone to a video every other week to try to get 26 a year rather than the 52 I was trying to get. So basically, we'll just do open chat, open question and answers on these off days. That lets me also, when I get the new shop shed set up, that's going to give me time to do longer, bigger projects and actually get outside and cut these projects that I demonstrate in the software tutorials. And the jury is still out as to whether I'm going to make these two-parters or single part. I do want to kind of get away from the beginners tutorials a little bit because between you and me, folks, I stopped doing beginners projects a long time ago. And most of what I'm showing now is pretty advanced stuff. Still in the beginners part when it comes to 3D modeling, because I'm not that good at it, just simply put. I'm learning, I'm getting a little better, but this is a brilliant time to segue into a little bit of a discussion about one of the guys who joins us regularly here for these live Q&As, a man by the name of Michael Mizolic. And I've put a link to his video that'll be premiering in a couple hours today down in the description of this video. And with Michael's permission, I'm going to keep linking those videos because he's started a series on 3D modeling for newbies. And I'm here to tell you, not only is he good, his videos are excellent. He does a very good job of breaking it down into layman's terms and demonstrating several techniques at once. A lot better than I do, believe me. I like to speak, I talk a little too much, and I get bogged down by details. Michael doesn't do that. He tells you what you need to know, and then he demonstrates it. And it's very, very good. So if you are not a subscriber to Michael Mizolic's 3D modeling, or excuse me, if you're not a subscriber to his channel, get over there and subscribe because you're really missing out. He's got a lot of good information over there and he knows what he's been doing. He's already put it in the chat, so I don't think I'm outing him in any way by saying he's been a Vectric beta tester for 9 years. You don't do that without knowing what you're doing. Now, the 3D modeling videos are Aspire only for the most part. Not 100% of them. There's some of that can be done in VCarve, but they are heavy on the Aspire side. But just between you, me, and the fly on the wall, if you want to get into 3D modeling, it's worth the upgrade to Aspire. You can cut 3D models in VCarve, but you can't really make them. There's some few cheats and workarounds, but it is so much easier just to go ahead and bite the bullet and get it done. Upgrade to Aspire, and then follow along with Michael. I mean, today's video, he's going to be doing extrude and weave, and that's something I'm very, very weak on. I can't wait for this video, so I hope to see you this afternoon when his video premieres. So let's kind of back out of that a little bit, and you'll notice another link down in the description. Something that you folks have been asking me about and continue to ask me about, I saw it in the chat earlier today, is the inlays. Folks ask me about inlays several times a day. And for those of you who saw it over on Vectric's YouTube channel, I designed my first public inlay in a collaboration with Todd over at Vectric to create my first inlay. Now, when Todd first reached out to me about that, I told him the same thing I've told everybody who has asked me about inlays, and that is I've never cut one. And I have a serious philosophical problem with presuming to show somebody how to do something that I have never done myself. And Todd convinced me that there was some value in demonstrating as I learn, and that make it an adventure for everybody. Don't do it from the context of this is how you do it. Do it from the standpoint of I'm learning how to do it. Let's both learn together. So he convinced me to go ahead and make a 30-minute video and do a few tips and tricks videos as well that they were going to use to tease. And I also warned him that my CNC was down. I mean, it's buried. It is. What you saw in the video was not staged, and there's even more stuff in there right now. I can't even see it when I open the shed door. It was to the point to where this year for Christmas, nobody got anything made from the CNC. Everybody got gift cards because I just physically can't get to it. So I told him, well, the only thing I'd be able to do is design the inlay and then have somebody else cut it. And he said if I would design the inlay, he would cut it there in their lab. So I did. And if you saw the video, what you saw was everything I did, live. And again, the only thing I did was draw 2 circles, 2 4-pointed stars, rotated one of them 45 degrees. And that made that pattern. I sent it to Todd. He decided to put some fillets in the points, but only because of the tools that he had. I tried to use common tools, and as he explained in the video, the tip of their 60-degree V-bit was broken. So he went ahead and he put some fillets in those ends of the points of the compass rose so that it would be less apparent that we weren't getting a sharp point. That was a little inside baseball, and we corresponded back and forth a little bit. But I wanted to say thank you to everybody at Vectric. I talked specifically with Todd and Stacy. Oh man, she's going to have me for that one. Todd and Stephanie. I don't even know where Stacy came from. Okay. I talked specifically with Todd and Stephanie, and they were more than gracious. And it was kind of hard to tell who was more excited about the whole thing, Todd or me. But it was a real fun thing. There may be more of that kind of thing in the future. And I really, really appreciated the opportunity to work with the two of them. It was a lot of fun. I don't know if anybody had any questions on the Vectric video. I tried to I was there in the chat and tried to answer questions as they were fielded while the video was being premiered. But another little inside baseball thing, I did not know that Todd was going to do this live. He played my video, and then he played the video of him in the lab cutting the parts and then putting it together and the finished project. But I didn't know the rest of it was live. He was doing that off the cuff. So, it was kind of a strange thing for me to see. Okay, there's a question about it here. Mark Kulig wants to know, on the inlay video, why was he having problems cutting that inlay, and then he reversed his cutting method? Is that a normal thing to do if you're getting problems like that? If you didn't see the video, when Todd cut the female first and set that aside, then when he went to cut the male portion of the inlay, he was getting a lot of chip out on the raised areas, especially in those areas that were being V-carved. And me thinking this is the folks at Vectric, they know this. I didn't mention it in my portion of the video. But this is a little tip that I'll give everybody. What I've discovered is, if I'm carving anything raised that I'm going to chamfer with a V-bit, be it a V carving that I'm clearing out a lot of material for, or if I'm just putting a chamfer around something raised in the pattern, I will run that V-bit toolpath first. It does reduce chip out because you're carving straight into the material without any clearance. So it's like there's more support there for whatever you're clearing out. And for whatever you're trying to run that V-bit around. So if that's become my go-to method, my go-to technique, if I have a V-carve toolpath that uses a clearance bit and we're clearing out an area and leaving something standing proud, I run that V-bit toolpath first. Then I'll do the clearance passes. That just gives me a cleaner finish. And down the road, when I get everything moved into the new shop, I plan on doing a video about that and demonstrating. And I'll do a sample with the V-bit toolpath run last, and then I'll do another sample with it run first to show the difference, so you can see for yourself what's going on. So, but that is I just assumed he knew that, and I assumed he would mention it, and he didn't. And I mean, I feel for Todd. I kind of felt like a rat for sending him that file, because he had a lot of problems cutting those pieces out until he remembered that and ran that V-bit toolpath first. So just for some reason, you get a much cleaner product by running that V-bit toolpath first. So let me go back up the list and see if we have any other questions. And again, keep your questions coming, because that's what this is all about. Okay, Crypto and Coffee. Don't recognize the name. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for being here. Asks, when you create G-code in VCarve, what means or software do you use to send the commands to the CNC? Do you have a video tutorial that explains this? No, I don't have a tutorial that explains it. But I wrote an article, it's been a few years back, for my website, and I'll link it in the description of this video. That explains the CNC process for the absolute beginner. It's a 5-step process. Step 1 is the design, coming up with the design. Step 2 is drawing the design. Step 3 is machining the design. And when you machine, I describe this in detail in the article. The CAD CAM software. CAD is computer-aided design. CAM is computer-aided manufacturing. In the CAD software, you draw the design. On the CAM side, you literally assign a path that a tool will need to take to cut that design. You save the G code, and you know that the G code is the code that the tool needs to actually physically send those commands to the CNC machine. Well, all CNC machines have a controller software. And that controller software could be something that's proprietary, like Axiom or Legacy or Laguna. They have their own built-in controller where you put the G-code file on a thumb drive, take it out and plug it into the controller or pendant and run it from there. There are also generic controller softwares like Mach 3, Mach 4, Universal G-code sender, Linux CNC. There are a bunch of different software programs that take that G-code and actually convert the code into signal outputs that tells what motor, when to turn, what direction to turn, how far to turn it, etc., that does the cut. It's individual for each machine. I would contact the machine manufacturer and get their recommendation. If it's one of the larger proprietary brands, again, like Axiom or Laguna, Legacy, something like that, that should be a part of the literature that came with the machine. If it's a smaller machine, home hobby machine like a Shapeoko or an X-Carve, there are a ton of options. I can't really get into machine specifics because there are simply too many machines out there to mention. Your best bet is to go to the manufacturer's website and look for a support link. Click that support link and look for a support community or a support forum. Some manufacturers have a forum that's attached to their website. Others rely on Facebook user groups like Bob CNC. Their support community is on Facebook. Look for that question asked there. If you don't see it, ask it. And they will set you on course. Support communities are usually made up of the membership is normal users like you and me. There may be a few employees there to answer certain technical questions, but the overwhelming majority of the support community is regular users like you and me who have been there, done that, got the T-shirt, and are more than willing to help people out. So I can't get into machine specifics because I don't know your machine. But that support community, they're the people that know it best. So I hope that that helps out a little bit. So, we'll see what happens there. I see I'm scrolled back down to the bottom. Mr. Craig says, how about some Aspire discount codes? That does not happen. It is high-end software and should be treated as such. I have never run across a discount program at all. And I know it's a lot of money. Believe me, I know. It's a lot of money. Been there, done that. I used my tax refund, okay? At first, you'll think, my God, this is outrageous and, overpriced. But 3 or 4 months in, you'll wonder why they sell it so cheap. Because I'm here to tell you, I just don't have the problems that I see other people having with other software. I just don't have those problems. So, bite the bullet, get it, you won't regret it. Buy once, cry once, man. That's all. Okay, let's kind of cruise down the list here and see what we're got going. And trying to find out if there's any other questions about CNC. Trying to catch up here. Okay, there is Mark Hack wants to know. I was wondering if there is a video for making a clock. Yes and no. I haven't sat down and actually designed a clock, but I have done videos on how to lay out a clock face if you already have a design in mind. And I normally in this situation, what I would do is I would I would write it down and tell you I'll post a link to the video. But I've done 3 or 4 of them, and I can't off the top of my head think of which ones they were. I would get into, there is a link in the description to the playlist for the VCarve or Vectric for Absolute Beginners series. Get into that playlist and look. You'll see there are 3 or 4 different videos where I demonstrated certain techniques and used a clock face to demonstrate those techniques. One was on circular arrays and how to space things in a circular pattern evenly, and I used a clock face to demonstrate that. Another was specific to clock faces and how to arrange numbers in those equal spaces. So I don't really have a video, but get into that playlist and you'll find the videos. I mean, the thumbnail shows a clock face. As far as designing a clock, I don't have any videos specific to that. So let's see. I'm trying to find other questions, and let's see what's going on here. I'm not seeing any more. Okay, Ayal Peleg wants to know, did you ever buy bits by the pound? No, I've not bought bits by the pound. I don't break bits a lot. I wear them out, but I don't break bits because I firmly believe that if you are breaking bits, one of 2 things is going on. Either you're pushing too fast or you're trying to cut too deep, or a combination of the 2. So it's one of 3 things. I've never bought bits by the pound. I didn't even know that was an option. I could see in an industrial setting where you're cutting 1,000 parts a day where you would need to do that. But no, I've never purchased them by the pound or by the kilogram. And I don't go out and buy a bunch of bits. It's real easy to spend money on bits that you will never use. I buy bits as I need them. And, I went for 4 years without owning a tapered ball nose bit because I just didn't carve 3D carvings. Once I started getting into it, that's when I got them. And so far, I only have, I have 1/4 inch standard ball nose bits. I have 1/8 inch tapered ball nose and 1/16 inch tapered ball nose. And I have 1 ball nose bit that I've never used yet. I bought it to do photo V carving. I've never used it. It's 3/64 of an inch tip diameter. But again, I've never used it yet. So it's real easy to spend money on bits you'll never use. My advice is just buy them when you need them. You got to try to anticipate a little bit, but if somebody wants a certain design and you don't have the tools for it, that's the time to buy it. Don't waste your money buying a lot of bits and kits. I don't buy bit sets. Get what you need when you need it and save the money for other things. So, let's see. Suicidal of all times. I have a question for you, Mark or Michael. Is there a way to delete the clearance pass step over? And have you ever inserted new document variables in the tool list? I personally have not. You can set certain variables in the tool list, but other variables you really can't. Because it's supposed to be set up to where it's tool specific. As far as deleting the clearance pass step over, I don't know why you would want to do that. Set the clearance pass step over for 0, or maybe put in a calculation so that it automatically changes that clearance pass step over when you add a new bit. I don't understand the reason for wanting to do that. I tend to use, for step overs, I tend to use a percentage because it's easy to remember. I don't have to do any math. I just know that on an end mill, no matter what diameter it is, I want to do a clearance pass step over of 40%. That's easy to remember. I can just put that in and go. But I don't know where you would want to get rid of a clearance pass step over. Maybe I don't understand the question. Let's see. Let me get going here and try to find more. I think I'm just about caught up. Okay, let's see. Concurring Lions says, I'm just beginning Vectric after 9 years using AlphaCam, which is licensed to my employer. Okay. I'm using VCarve Pro, but I think I need to upgrade to Aspire for making 3D parts. Any thoughts? Yes and no. If you're carving a 3D carving and you have the file, that file can be imported into VCarve, whether it be an STL, an OBJ. There's a few other different formats that VCarve will import. The limitation is you can import one model. Now, Michael Mizolic over on his channel has a short video series on how to import more than one STL into VCarve. If you plan on creating your own 3D models and 3D parts, then yes, you would need Aspire for 99% of it. So, yes and no, basically. Let's see. JMJ Love Dance, what are the best step over values for the V-bit when doing inlays? I'm going to make you mad, Jeff, and just say the best is what works for you. It depends on the project, and that sounds like a cop-out, and in some ways it is, but it's hard to give any kind of a cut and dried use this step over, because there really isn't one. It just depends. For a clearance pass step over for my 90 degree vit, I use 5%. For the final pass step over, I use 3%. But on my 60 degree V-bit, my clearance pass step over is 20%. It just depends. It depends on the project. And something else to put out is the fact that these step overs, whether it be the final pass step over, a clearance pass step over, or whatever, they are not written in stone. And that information was not really intended to be set it and forget it. It was, they're meant to be adjustable. So it's going to depend on the material you're working with and the project, because you might want one final pass step over for maple, and you might want something completely different for foam, and something completely different for walnut. So that's going to depend on the project, the depth of cut, what kind of material it is, how detailed you're going, the size of the bit, are you cutting to a flat depth? So that's adjustable. So there really isn't any kind of cut and dry. So, let's see. LDG says, can you run Veto, I'm assuming you mean VCarve, on a Mac? It is a Windows, all of Vectric's titles are Windows-based programs. I know people who own Macs. They're using an emulator like Parallels, or there's a couple of other ones that I'm not a Mac person. There's a couple others I don't know. but they're Windows-based programs. They will not run on the iOS. They need to have that Windows emulator. So, Rick French mentions reduced pricing if it's bought with the CNC. At least it is with Avid. Yes, and that's a separate issue. You do kind of get a discount on the software if you buy it in conjunction with the CNC. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. But that's a license agreement between Vectric and that manufacturer. So as far as discounts for the average guy like you and me, that doesn't happen. I've not seen it yet. So let's see. Mr. Craig wants to know, do you have any videos on dust collection? Not now. I will be in the future. But dust collection is pretty personal. I've been using shop vacs and similar solutions right now, or up till now, but on this new shop shed, I'm putting in a dedicated dust collector because it's going to be doing more than just the CNC. I'm going to hook it up to my table saw and a couple of other tools when I get them. But right now, no, I don't have anything on dust collection. So, Crypto and Coffee wants to know, what software do you use to run the CNC? I use Mach 3, but let me throw a caveat out there. When I got into CNC, Mach 4 wasn't out yet. Mach 4 is still pretty new. And Mach 3 was probably more responsible for home-based CNC than any other single program out there. And that just about everybody at that time was using Mach 3. Then Linux CNC came along, and then UGS came along, and it was a fairly quick progression, starting in about 2016, 2017, right in there. I use Mach 3. I bought the license way back when. The license never expires. It works for me. I see no need to change. Your mileage may vary. You may find another program that you prefer. A lot of people using Universal G-Code Center and other programs to control their software. I do use Mach 3. What you need to look at, though, is your control system compatible with it? A lot of control systems are not compatible with Mach 3. So again, talk to your machine's manufacturer and ask them specifically, can I use Mach 3 with this machine? And they'll tell you yes or no. So, Ed Herbst wants to know, could you make a video on making a dust boot for X-Carve? The short answer is no. The long answer is I don't have an X-Carve. I have no need for one. There are plenty of videos out there on making dust boots for X-Carves. It's just not something that I need. So, let's see. Let me go here. Rick French wants to know, is it possible to create or move an icon to the toolpath side? I'm always forgetting to save once I get to that side of the screen. I don't think there is any way to do that. I don't think there's any way to copy icons or move icons or change around the interface at all. And I think it would be a mess if they made it that way, just me personally. This is just me talking here, but when I go to close Aspire or VCarve, and it's always been the case, if I go to close it, it asks me, do you want to save changes to the file? Well, if I don't know, yes, I do. I want to save changes to the file. Or maybe I made a change and then changed it back. I will save another copy. I'll save it under a different name, or I'll hit increment and save. If you're not getting that prompt, I would get a hold of Vectric Tech support. But you should get a prompt asking you, do you want to save the file before you close it? I don't know what to tell you. I don't know. I use the menu for that. I always have. That's how I was taught on the PC, was not to rely on icons. And I use icons a lot in Aspire, so go figure. But I just always go up to File and Save As or Save. That's something I need to stress more in my videos. Thank you for that reminding me. Let's see. T4 Concepts. Can you recommend a good total newbie videos that shows the setup procedure? I'm a little confused about homing the CNC machine after loading the G-code. Homing and setting your work zeros are two different things. Homing your machine is going to be specific to your machine and controller. I would talk to the manufacturer or the controller software publisher, because it's going to be machine or control software specific. As far as setting your X, Y, and Z zero onto your workpiece, that is, I've demonstrated it in a couple of videos, but that's one of the things I do intend to make a video on later and show how I set my X, Y, and Z zero using a touch plate, and then I'll also show a couple of different methods for setting X, Y, and Z zero without a touch plate. That's in the making. That'll be down the road. I've got to get to my machine first, so we'll see. Let's see. My Coffee Paul says, love the weaving unit in the background. Yeah, that's one of my wife's spinning wheels. It's here for storage. She doesn't have another place to put it. What can you say? Let's see. Miko Hintika, and I hope I didn't just butcher your name. What's the best working, I'm assuming you mean method, when making a two-sided job? I use screws or clamps. If you've watched my two-sided machining videos, you know that I tend to screw the material down. And using those locating dowels to locate everything, I just screw it down. I cut my locating dowels into a sacrificial piece of plywood, into a sacrificial waste board. So I have no issue with drilling holes for screws and drive countersunk, in my case, Phillips head wood screws to hold the piece down. Just make sure you sink them down low enough to where there's nothing protruding so that a bit can't hit them, and you're fine. I tend to use screws for that. I'm not a clamp person. I know a lot of machinists and a lot of CNCers are going to tell me how great they are, but I just don't trust them. I've had issues with clamps in the past. I don't use them. I screw things down, or I use tape and CA glue. But on a double-sided project, that's a lot of setup. I find it just easier to screw the piece of material down to my sacrificial waste board piece of plywood and go from there. That's just me. So, Frank P. Wants to know how to make a ramp. He's trying to make a phone holder under where the sound comes out. Want to have sort of a slope. I have an idea in mind for a video on that. I need to confirm something before I make that video. And in fact, I may talk to Michael about this later on. We'll see what happens. I do plan on making a video on that. Spoiler alert, it uses the fluting toolpath. We'll see. Let's see. Michael Mizolic wants to know, will you be adding the inlaid video to your playlist? I'd have to get Todd's permission to do that. I don't want to just, assume something. Assume that they would be okay to me adding their video to one of my playlists. But I'll zap Todd a message and ask him if that's okay. I could. But I plan on doing... That was something I didn't address. That was my first inlay design that I made public. It's not my first inlay design. I probably have 20 inlays designed. I've just never cut one because I haven't had time. There will be a lot more inlay content as we progress. I've got to get moved into the new shop first. And I'll do a little shop update a little bit later on. Once I get in there, I plan on doing a lot more inlay content. With Todd's permission, I'll put it on that playlist because there will be an inlay playlist. But I'll talk to Todd and see, get their blessing before I do anything. I'm sure he won't have a problem with it, but, we'll see what happens. Suicidal at all times. I just noticed your doggy in the background. Forgot to set the material depth. I have done it many times. Just reset, export, and recut. I'm one of those weirdos that likes to put stuff in the background. Oops, I moved to the side and covered it up. I'm one of those weirdos that likes to hide stuff in the background just to see if anybody notices. That's actually a piece of basswood that I brought home from the cabinet shop I worked at in the 1990s in Savannah, Georgia. And my wife carved that by hand with just a couple of little gouges and a pocket knife. And then she had an accident, hurt her shoulder, and never got back to it. So it's half done. She just carved that by hand. So she's the artistic side of this family. Believe me. She just has never gotten back to it, but that was hand carved. So let's see. Concurring Lion says, that answers my question. I'll mainly be designing my own parts. Yeah, if you're going to be designing your own 3D models, then you need Aspire. So. Willie Vorster says, there seems to be many beginner videos. How about some more advanced stuff? Well, my channel has been geared toward the absolute beginner, the person who has never done anything like this before. And it's going to get more advanced as time goes. Like I say, I want to get away from absolute beginner videos and get into more advanced stuff, like you're asking for. So that is coming. I'm going to be doing some guitar videos in the future for sure. I've got several projects in this head. I just have to confirm a few things and get better at it. I'm not a good 3D modeler, but they are coming. So a guitar neck with a volute should make for an interesting video. Yes, it would. In fact, making the jig so that you can cut the back of a guitar neck, flip it over, mount it to the jig, and then cut the top surface of the guitar neck. I think that would make a good series as well. So, let's see. Getting close here, 12:42. What tools do you recommend for finish sanding and carvings? Or finish sanding carvings, flap wheels, nylock, sanding mops. I do a combination. I'm a big fan of the Scotch-Brite radial sanding discs in a Dremel or similar rotary tool. They use a 1/8 inch diameter mandrel, have a screw on the end. You stack up 3 sanding wheels on it, the sanding discs on it, screw it back on, chuck it in your Dremel, turn it down, low if it's variable speed, and go to town. I'm a huge fan. If I'm doing a large carving where I've got a lot of surface area, I have abrasive nylon wheels that I chuck into my drill and sand that way. Michael Tyler, the gentleman who designs all of Vectric's free project files, the free monthly projects, he gave me a good tip on using those rotary sanding discs, the Scotch-Brite rotary sanding discs. And that was Don't be nervous about the grit. It doesn't exactly follow sandpaper grits. Where I was trying to use 320 and 400 grit, those are the initial stages of polishing. I backed down at his suggestion to 80 grit and 120 grit, and they turn out beautifully. I was worried about sanding out detail. They don't do that. I did the same thing on the nylon brushes that I use, and the quality and the speed has really improved. So I will put links in the description after we finish with this live session. I'll put links in the description to the products I use. They will be affiliate links. And the way affiliate links works is if you click on that link and you purchase that item, there is no additional cost to you, but I get a few pennies as a thank you for your purchase through that link. So I will put links. I'm writing a note to myself to put links to those products in the description of this video. And these are the grits that I use. But having said that, there is no one solution. Sometimes you do have to get in there with sandpaper and a thumb or a little something for a profile, popsicle stick, even a toothpick, and sand certain details. It just depends on how detailed you want to try to get. So, excuse me. Let's see. Dave Matthews said Tim Sway put out a new video on fingerboards this morning. Yes, Tim Sway does a lot of guitar videos. Let's see. David Schneider. I'm gonna have to catch up here. Oh man, I'm way behind here. Let me catch up here. Where'd I go? David Schneider. Would you consider doing a tutorial on a curved top rim dish as Andrew Pitts produced? I have a project in mind for something like that. I just have to get to it. I've got a lot of projects like that. But yes, I'm planning on doing a few dishes that will have a curved rim. And a couple of other interesting things. We'll see. Like I said, not beginner's projects. Rick French says the problem with saving is that if you make a change to the toolpath and save the toolpath without saving the file, the toolpath sent to the CNC is correct except for any change in thickness. Yeah, you have to recalculate toolpaths if you change that thickness and save the file, obviously, if you want to keep that thickness. And you will have to save new G-code. So, yeah. Let's see. Richard Gislason. When I started the carve, we zero it, then the next cut I set to start down 0.1. Do I still set it 0, or does the machine know to drop 0.1 and start the carve? Okay, let me back up and regroup here. When you set your machine 0, your X, Y, and Z 0, the only time you should change that Z0 is if you do a bit change. If you are pocketing down to 0.1, then you're drilling a hole in that pocket with that same bit in the machine. You don't need to change your 0. The only time you change your Z0 is when you change bits. The machine does know to start that cut further down. I can't think of an exception, so I'll just say it. Once you set your X and Y 0, you should never have to set it again, unless something happens, power goes out, or machine malfunction or what have you. The only time you change your Z0 is when you change the bit. If you're using the same bit, your Z0 shouldn't change. So, let's see. Lewis Denton says, is your studio your shop? I don't see your CNC in the background. No, my studio is not my shop. This is an extra bedroom in the house. This was ostensibly set up to be my guitar assembly room when we first moved in here, but it has since gotten being used for storage, lumber, spinning wheel, computers, you name it. It just kind of got turned into a studio, as it were. Let's see. Okay. Romeo Hesh says, once you set 0, when you change size bit, does the 0 stay the same? No. When you change the bit, you will reset your Z0. Okay. Okay. T4 Concept says, that's excellent, Mark. Setting work 0 is what I'm missing. Setting work 0 is the actual easier part of the whole thing. I mean, because every piece of material is going to be different, obviously, and every position you put it on the machine is going to be different unless you're using a fixture. And that's something that I do just as a matter of course. I would say roughly 90% of the things I cut on my machine are less than 24 inches wide and are less than 12 inches tall. But I might mount a piece of material over here this time, and I might mount it up here next time and over here this time. Just because I tend to screw things down to my spoil board quite a bit. And I get the most use out of I don't baby my spoil board. I get the most use out of it. And if it starts getting too nasty, I'll kind of clean it up a little bit, patch holes with automotive body filler, let that cure overnight, and come back and resurface the whole ding-dong thing. So, Abel Ramirez, when will Vectric be available on Mac computer? Probably never. It's been put out for years, and I don't think there are any plans to release a Mac version. I just don't see that happening. T4 Concepts, you're using the UGS. I would go to UGS support page, support community, and hit like the Shape Oko and Bob CNC support community, because I know a lot of Bob CNC and a lot of Shape Oko users use UGS for their machines, and they can definitely help you out with that. So, let's see. Steve Greer wants to know, do you have a link to Todd's videos? All of Todd's videos, I believe, are either on the Vectric YouTube channel or on the Design and Make YouTube channel. Todd is also one of the... either he's in charge of Design and Make, or he's one of the upper echelon people at Design and Make, which is a sister company to Vectric. So he's, I mean, you know, Todd is not some backwoods flunky like me. Todd is, you know, we're talking, yeah. There is a link to the video collaboration we did in the description, but basically Vectric on YouTube and Design and Make on YouTube. Let's see. I'm going to have to wrap this up here pretty quick. Joe Dorrance says, have you done anything on dovetail joints? No, I've not. I just haven't had the need yet. Now, when I get moved over into the shop, I'm going to change that. I'm going to do some dovetail projects on purpose, just for the purpose of demonstrating it. I want to do some because I've never done one. So look for that coming. Let's see. Ooh, let's see. I'm backing up. Okay, I'm going to take this last one here, and then we'll wrap this up. Carl Gierke wants to know, how about a little history on yourself? What you did for a living? Did it have some CNC history in making your living? This is, I'll give you the condensed version. 7 years ago, I'd never been in the same building with a CNC router. I knew they existed. I knew they were out there. I had run across videos on YouTube like I'm guessing everybody else has. And I never doubted that I would be able to build the structure of a CNC. The electronics was way over my head, you know. I'm not an electronics guy. And it's just simply because I've never taken the time to try to learn it. It just doesn't interest me. And I know a lot of you electronics people are like, oh, but Mark, it's easy. Yeah, well, you know, a lot of things are easy that I'm just not interested in learning. So when I was introduced to the plug and play motor and driver kit, I dove on it. As far as careers are concerned, I don't know that I have ever really had anything you could consider a career. I've done lots of jobs in a lot of different fields. I've been working with wood in one form or another since I was, as near as I can figure, since I was 7 years old. I still have the first project I made with my grandfather when I was 7. He ran the table saw, and then he showed me how to do everything else. It's a library chair. I just wanted to make a chair, so he and I went out into the garage and we built one. And I've been building things ever since. Got in as a construction laborer, then got into as a carpenter's helper, then an apprentice carpenter, then discovered trim carpentry, and did a little bit of that. Then the economy fell apart in the early 80s. I went into the Army. I was a radar crewman in the Army. Got out of the Army, went back in as a helicopter mechanic, met my wife, got married, got out of the Army, went to work back in the cabinet shops and furniture shops, countertop shops. Got to where I got some nerve damage in my arms. I just can't do that anymore. For a living anyway. And it was all repetitive motion using grinders on countertops, on solid surface countertops and what have you. So got into casino work. I was a casino manager for 15 years. Then my most recent change was I was a real estate agent here in Southern Oregon and retired about 2 years ago. The rest, as they say, is history. So I beat up my body as a kid and just can't do a lot of that stuff I used to do for a living anymore. Take care of yourself. Wear a mask. Wear a respirator. Those fumes do matter. Wear gloves. Absorbing those chemicals into the skin does matter. Use dust collection. Inhaling all that junk does matter. And it will come back to bite you. It may be years, but it will come back to bite you. But lots of doing stupid things like jumping motorcycles and BMX bicycles and inner tubing behind jet boats and beating myself up for years and years have come back to haunt me. So, you know, take care of yourself. You only got one you. I'll get off my soapbox. And that's enough about me. I want to thank everybody who has joined me today. I want to thank everybody who has used those links down in the description to donate to the channel. You guys are you're flipping amazing. That's all I'm going to say. I have the absolute greatest viewers on YouTube. I've said it before. I'll say it again. You guys are just amazing to me. And thank you to everybody who has shared the video, who has commented on the videos, and who keep coming in. I mean, we've got 96 viewers right now. Who gets 96 viewers on a Sunday live stream, man? This is crazy. I mean, I love you guys. I love you guys. All right, I'll stop fanboying on you guys and just say thanks very much for watching. You all are just the best. Head over to Michael Mizolic's channel. It's already there. It's already set up. It's ready to go. Maybe I'll see you in the chat because I'm going to be there. I'm interested in this one. And just until next week, I will say, go out and do something cool. Go make some chips. After Michael's video, go make some chips. Bye, y'all. Y'all take care.